I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. Crystal, if you go ahead and call the roll, please.
Councilmember David Sauter,
Present.
Councilmember Terrence Fennelly,
Present.
Councilmember John Casey,
Present.
Supervisor Jared Simpson.
Present. Thank you very much. All right.
Mixing it up, going backwards.
I did.
I like it. Good job. Way to keep it fresh.
Before we get started, does anyone know if that back gate's open?
Back gate.
Back gate.
I didn't come in that way this morning. I don't
Is it
know.
usually open?
It opens, only if you have a,
If there's a lot of work going in and out, it's open,
Yeah.
But not
Not
typically.
Usually when they're plowing too, they'll keep it open.
Yeah,
So they can just.
I have a meeting over that way when I. leave.
yeah, I don't know.
I
Can't,
won't go that way.
yeah, I can't guarantee, yeah. Okay.
I had to use my phone this morning. For the garage door opener thing.
Yeah, I can. So we do, I'll just go from this because I'm struggling pulling this up today. Thanks for making that bigger.
Give me your pad.
If you pull that up for me while I'm looking at it, thank you.
I think you're on the wrong side.
I probably am.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we do have a couple reports that we're gonna be, there are two reports to take a look at, Sheriff's Office, thank you, sir. And the Humane Society Annual Report, from 2024. We do have our two public hearings, incentive zoning relating to Uptown Landing. And then, the restrictions of replacement of manufactured homes within the town. So those two public hearings will be first. Let's just jump right into the agenda, to the resolutions real quick.
Just real quick, Jared. So were there any questions though on the content of the public hearing for the Uptown Landing? And did everybody notice that there's only one single change in that whole document? Which just or sets the minimum square footage in those two other zones. So I just want to make sure.
So that's just fixing
Fixing the
the overall technicality from the first one.
Essentially, and then,
Making the map.
Yeah.
yeah, and like I said, yeah, and there's only one single line that is the only amendment in that whole document, that it's redlined in there in the attachments. So,
No, that's okay. While we're doing that, any questions on, since I just skipped to those real quick, any questions, discussions for the manufactured homes?
It should be an interesting,
Mhm.
I don't know if anybody will show up, but from the RLD, but single.
It could be. I mean, it was, planning board had an interesting discussion on it as well.
What was their take?
It was split versus, in favor, it was split versus in favor of it and against it as to why we would even. Why to even encourage in certain areas, because there's a misunderstanding, I think, of what the new manufactured homes are like. There's still the image of trailer with an arched, like a little curved roof on it, single wide with a hitch in the front.
But couldn't you
Versus,
put one of those in? I know the new ones look different, but couldn't you put one of
I
those
mean,
in?
technically you
Yes.
could, but,
Well, I think that the language requires a full foundation.
The foundation, and you've got to hide the hitch or take it off.
So
Or build
in
around
theory, it
it.
shouldn't have the appearance of a manufactured home.
Right. So I think that's, well, I think once people see where the new ones are. Where they're going, I think it'll be better, but that will be some interesting
I think
discussion
the
on that.
probability of that ever occurring is rather low.
Yeah, people aren't gonna, those won't pick up and move very easy. One thing we are gonna change when we get into some of the reports. We will go through our town board committee reports, but any of the reports from the various offices. The reports will be in here. I'm not gonna go through and invite everyone to give a report like we typically do with the assessor with zoning. I think we might have talked about this before. I don't remember if we talked about it in here. The only time that somebody will share a verbal report is if they put it in here that they have a presentation to make to the board. Cause I've always hated going down that list and it's like, oh, nope, not here. Oh, it just feels awkward. It just feels, I just don't like it. So if people have a report, then they will put that in there and then they will share. We will take time for each of the standing committees. as well.
You do want the standing committee?
So the
to say
standing,
something?
yeah, the standing committees, yeah, because I think that's good because we're reporting back as a board
Okay,
and gives us that opportunity. And I know that we meet at least monthly, so there should be some action or just that brief update.
Yeah.
To keep that going. All right, resolutions. You good? I'm just like, what did I do wrong this time? I did something wrong again.
No, Cap, I guess, is given.
They're gonna
she's
give a
gonna be given
presentation, their committee report.
Okay,
So if a committee wants to make a report like Parks,
They
Mark
should.
sends in his report if he's not gonna make it to Sue,
and it goes in the agenda,
and then goes in the agenda.
but
Did the committees know that?
we've talked about it with staff. We will let the committees know.
Yeah, yeah.
Typically, he'll send in a report, but it's, you know, the feeling of sometimes, like the historian, sometimes he's here to say things, sometimes he's
Right.
not. And this way, if you are going to be here and you want to say something,
But regardless of
know.
that, the report should be in this agenda.
yeah,
like
just
I-
send the
I totally
report and
agree.
we'll put it in the
Right, yeah,
agenda.
Yeah, written reports can go in if somebody wants to speak
Yeah.
more of their report, then we would note that
We would note
on the
that,
agenda, so Jared knows to stop there
Yeah.
and,
Right,
and request it.
Yeah.
I'll add,
Yeah,
did they send in a
they're able to
presentation?
yeah, they're, okay.
Okay.
All right, updating membership to the finance committee. Adeline's coming on board, are there any other, so we've got that going on. Any other questions on 14? 15, general operations. See if there are any questions on those. I don't think we should have too many. We've got the fee schedule.
Yeah, that amendment is just, Parks and Rec related stuff, things that weren't previously on there.
Okay. Town hall renovation is the amendment for the changes that we have to go through with MRB because we're expanding the scope. The group facilitation services, that's what we discussed with coming in and doing a meeting of the boards. Economy of scale means it wasn't a full 50% reduction because we're only doing the one meeting. But we will do one meeting of all the boards, and that includes prep work and follow-up work.
I guess I just have a quick question about that, because I think it's only set for like was a 3-hour meeting or 1.5 hours.
Well, there's
or-
meeting, but there's time to meet before, time to meet after, and then
Okay.
facilitating 2 to 3 or 3 to 4 hour meeting.
Okay, all right.
But there's also time in before to pre-meet, come up with some goals, the meeting itself, and then a write-up of it afterwards.
those
So-
dates haven't been set yet. have
No.
they?
No, this is just approving it, and then we'll put out some dates and get a time when everybody can meet. My hope is mid-year, before people leave for the summer and start traveling, so maybe June-ish, May or June type of thing.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that was enough time. But once I saw the second price and it was like, oh, it's clearly, you know, it was almost more of a bargain to do all the
To do all,
meetings,
yeah,
but, so, but perhaps I guess they can, if, it's determined that we need more afterwards, they can throw that deal back in.
they can throw that deal back in if we do another one on that, yeah. All right, change orders for the town hall renovation. Any questions on those?
I'll just offer my assistance if you want to help with that, John.
Absolutely.
And that takes in count anything that we have changing and any updates so far. Historical Society. We have them, that's the agreement we already approved the agreement, this just allows us to send them the money.
Yeah, and that was on last year's organizational meeting agenda, so I missed it for this year. But I noted it for next year to make sure that gets on the organizational meeting, which is where it should be at with the other contracts that we do at anyone.
And then new vehicles for code enforcement. Any questions for code enforcement on those?
I just want to make note that is over budget from what was approved, so if you, in the resolution, it states all that information. but there's funding available, from the program that we end up not, that we budgeted for $15,000 for that. Stormwater program that we don't need now because they were gonna try out the one that Farmington is using, right?
Yeah, we're gonna experiment with our GIS and survey 1 through 3. It's free, so it doesn't do everything, but we're gonna experiment with that for the first year and see what we can
And
do.
I think the initial thought, from what I recall from going through the budget last year, was the one vehicle was gonna be, one of those little SUVs, but determined it's more feasible to start moving the pickup trucks.
Like the
all around
SUVs that we have, yeah, I don't,
For these guys.
Code
where they gotta
enforcement.
go.
code enforcement needs trucks.
Yeah,
So that's why it's up, about 6,000-7,000 over budget.
yeah, and we're experimenting with a Ford Ranger. They're significantly cheaper, about 10,000 than an F-150, but I don't know of anyone that's had good luck with them, so we're gonna experiment with it and see how it works for us. So,
All right, any questions on that? Highway and water, Terry, do you want to speak to it since we don't have Jim? Do you have any intel or any info that you want to speak to? on any of
No, we
those?
talked about the culvert, proposal and, at the last, public works meeting, if you want to go ahead with that, there's nothing there. Siemens with the HVAC system. Hopefully this solves the problem. There's been problems since day one out there. Highway trucks. I think Jim said that there was a 2-year reprieve on, going for electric vehicles and, he wanted to get a order in ahead. Is that gonna be delivered to what, 27 or?
Yeah, so the order, so I dug into this one a little to kind of help rewrite the resolution to make it make sense as to what the actual issue is with the state and all that. And so it the resolution better clarifies the reason why we should order it now, and it's simply because as the state's percentage of sales they're going to require these manufacturers to have in the zero combustion vehicles, whatever, zero emission vehicles, the less inventory they're gonna have of real vehicles. So it's gonna be harder to find those, and the prices are gonna get jacked up as the inventory goes down, so we simply want to order it now. Even though there is that reprieve, which the reprieve is the enforcement on the manufacturers for having that certain percentage of zero emission sales. So we order it now, pay for it, budget for it 2026, get delivery of it by 2027. And then, so we'll have at least one more real truck before.
So what's the difference between item 24 and item 26? Because you're talking about item 26 right now, but what's item 24? Authorized purchase of new trucks for the highway department.
So those were 24 are trucks that were in the budget already, that was approved in the budget for their replacement vehicles, 3 replacement vehicles. That are up for replacement now. So the order, it was budgeted for 2025 to purchase them. So we're purchasing those vehicles this year, or putting the order in to purchase them this year. 26 is getting ahead of the game.
Right. That's what you're just talking about.
Yeah, an
right?
unbudgeted item
Right.
that we're not paying for. We don't have to pay for this year either, but we're gonna budget for it next year ahead of schedule so that we can make sure we have one last real plow before.
Yeah,
And
well, you pay for half of it, 1 year and a half.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah,
but it's-
Now they're
But
doing
he
it
thought
for
it'd
free.
be 27 or something before.
Yeah,
we have to
yeah.
pay Money out of
Interesting-
any money at
This
all.
just locks us in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we just locks us
interestingly
in.
enough, is this whole zero emission thing started in 2020 to be implemented in 2025, and since then, the state has put in zero infrastructure to actually support it.
And one of the largest electric vehicle heavy equipment providers, manufacturers, just went to file chapter 11 bankruptcy.
Yeah, so we definitely want to get this ordered, and the cost increase of the zero emission vehicles is gonna be about 60% increase in costs once we have to start buying those. So about $500,000 plow trucks is what we're gonna be buying in the future.
Just because you're towing a generator behind you.
Yeah.
Running propane.
It's the diesel jet.
Electric vehicle, but you gotta have
It's the diesel generator behind to keep
combustion
charging the battery
generator.
as you're driving. Can we? Anyhow. So we got that going on and then,
With all the money we get from the state as a town, maybe we ought to consider whether we even comply with that requirement or
no, we don't, that's,
not. I'm being facetious.
yeah. Well, that's why we're buying this truck. So hopefully, and after this one comes, there'll be another reprieve and we can keep buying one at a time on a reprieve. And then 27 is just a refund, transfer from Canada Consolidated. HR, Scott Neal is resigning from the planning board. Tim Schneider is moving to the vacant position on the planning board. We'll be putting forward a name for the alternate to the planning board shortly. There's somebody interested in that. We'll be getting a resume and some information about that individual. And then Alan Taylor to the Ag Advisory Committee, which has been a tough committee to get people on. So it's good to have somebody. Yeah, so it's good to have somebody there for that. And then the creation of the office specialist 2 position. Want to speak? To that?
Yeah, so just, you know, I've been sitting down with Lindsay at times going through our positions in the town, not necessarily funded positions, but just all the open positions, trying to clean it up. We're trying to look at kind of modernizing what's out there. The clerk and the office specialist 1 positions that we have they don't attract people. The lists that are out there are not good. As we've experienced with getting, people in and they're not lasting long. So this is just a way to try to increase the attraction of these positions, turning those positions into office specialist 2 positions. So although we're creating these 3, they're going to replace other 3 positions that we have on our roster already. So it's just upgrading it to try to attract qualified candidates.
Not adding new staff as a replacement, but you're bumping it up in terms of compensation levels to try to attract better people.
Because of the open
Yeah.
position for the turnover in the highway department in that position. It's because it would, because it was at that lower level. This would allow
Yeah, so that
a better spot.
we want that position to be office specialist 2. We want Tammy's position to be office specialist 2. And then we are creating the additional office specialist 2, but it's not funded, and I can't remember why. Oh, sorry, I remember why. I was talking with Michelle and Lindsay, and she was mentioning that she doesn't necessarily, because we were talking about putting out the advertising for the vacant assessor aid position. And she mentioned that we probably save a little money for the time being because she doesn't necessarily need an assessor aid right now until next year. But she can really use an office specialist. So right now we're creating the office specialist 2 position. In addition to the assessor aid, but the office specialist 2 for this year is going to be using the funding from the assessor aid position. And then we'll just have to discuss in the budget creation of, budgeting for that additional office specialist 2, or where we can pull, or we can replace it. with
If
other
that
funding.
office specialist 2 could move into the assessor aid
Yeah.
position. So
That's the ultimate goal, is to kind of gear somebody up for that position so that they're ready to go for assessment when they have to do the revals. But Michelle did mention that once we get to that point, she probably will also need an additional office person with herself and the assessor aid to be able to efficiently do the revals again, which I think is geared up for 2027, but needs to start working on it by middle to end of next year, fall of next year. So.
Victor skipped their reval. There are a lot of downstate places I was talking to that skipped their reval
Well, I'd like that. I'm doing
that
another.
are up they're frustrated with the process, so they had skipped it for the last few cycles. So I'm just putting that out there. We don't need to discuss, but that is that has been a trend out there.
Agree with that
That
wholeheartedly.
there are some counties and some there are a lot of municipalities that are just dealing with the repercussions of it and skipping it for a while. Cause there's some counties, I can't remember if it's Albany County or which one, that the county executive is trying to take over and make it a countywide thing instead of towns. It's very difficult. It's a difficult concept, but maybe that's Erie County too, but to try to do that, to try to deal with that, but it's a growing trend. We're just getting that out there, and it's a discussion we'll have to have as we get closer. Because we start the reassessment clock. We're the ones who authorize it and start it as a board, so we would have to have that discussion. to
Does
see
the
where
state
we
give a
are.
reprieve though if your ratio is or above 95%, you know, the best value?
I've heard that, but I have not heard what the actual implications are if you drop below that and what penalty there is.
I remember when I sat in on the interviews for assessor back when Paul, what's his name, was hired here.
Mhm.
One of the people that was talked to was from Erie County. Can't remember what group, which municipality, but anyway, he said they were running about 49%. And, you know, the question, geez, how can you, he said, no interest in changing.
Mhm.
He said, just not going. And he said, it's not my decision. He said, of course, that's the board that he reported to, but, so I mean, they're still existing.
Mhm.
They
Didn't take them over, didn't bulldoze them
cut them
down.
off and push them over the
Yep.
edge, so.
So anyway, so that's,
Yeah, and so just so you guys know, like, that's something I'll be continually doing with Lindsay, going through our positions and determining, you know, what fits best for different areas, to be able to maintain our staff and then attract candidates for some of these vacant positions. And it's important to update that. We're just seeing how the lists come in these days, with different areas. So again, these are funded positions that we're switching to. We'll just have to discuss into next year's budget, a slight increase in pay for these positions because of the upper level title. So, but
all right, development. Sharon, Sarah and Mark, do you want to speak to any of those 32 through 38?
32 is just the acceptance of surety payments. 33 is the annual decommissioning bond for the County Road 10 solar. That one was reviewed by MRB as to the dollar amount. We're a little bit behind on that one, but we're still current. Maintenance bond for Pierce Brook 2A, simple one. And then dedication of the roadway and infrastructure for 2A at Pierce Brook. There are some items that still need to be completed. Jim did his inspection. MRB went through, did their part. Everything is good with just sidewalks are really the big one. Stabilization and then some minor fixes. But those are all itemed out and have deadlines on them.
Nadler has given his approval for that one and the maintenance bond as well. So they're all reviewed by legal and approved.
Definitely reviewed.
You might have approved 33 too. I think he looked at that bond.
Okay.
With the dedication of the roadway, we'll have to file that with the clerk's office. So is that something, would that be a charge back, those filing fees to the developer?
And then 36. 36 is just the code on the trailers. 37.
7 is actually 3 different sections from chapter 220-21 that came out of ordinance committee. We've got a bunch of different laws in that committee and they all happen to be for chapter 220-21, so I thought it might make more sense to put them all in one. One of them was the garage size in the RLD.
Bisected lots.
The other one is the bisected lots, also, well, they're all RLD. And then the other one was drawing like
Generators,
generators, thank you.
identifying generators as a permitted accessory structure.
Yeah, as an additional allowed. To kind of get past that issue that we keep seeing with the zoning board. And then the last one is the cemeteries and monuments chapter. The cemetery committee had come up with some changes that they felt should be made in that chapter. Some of them was just clarification. How fees are collected and who does that, and the other ones were about specific rules for how many burials are allowed in each grave and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Stack them.
You can only stack them if you use a tube
Stack the
and
bodies.
you do their cremains. And the cemetery committee's been working a long time on that one and
Yeah.
for some reason it slipped, it kind of got lost in translation for a little bit. That this has been ready for a while and they've been wanting it to get moving for a while, but it's one of those that you don't need it until you need it. We don't need it very often, but when you need it, you want to have it there and in place.
I think there's some person out there that might need it. As far as
Sooner than later.
Right.
Yeah, sooner than later. Well,
Pace that it would.
yeah, it's, but they've been working hard on
Yeah,
that one to
yeah,
get
they
that done. Okay, any questions on that?
And with those laws, the one that's potential for adoption and the 2 that are setting the public hearing, all the backup is in there, the memo, the information, the red line, all that's in them.
Just to
Alright.
clarify, Sarah, the Uptown Landing isn't a local law, right? There's nothing going. The public hearing for Uptown Landing.
Not a local law, no. It's
Okay.
the incentive zoning package. Amendments, so.
Consent agenda, pretty much straightforward. We do have some minutes to look at, so if you see any questions on those, make sure you bring those up. If you have them beforehand, you can let Crystal know, and then she can be prepared with any of those changes. And then a review of Uptown Landing subdivision number 41. And that's just taking a look at those plans. I think we're all, this is one that we're all, we all have had our eyes on for a while, and it shouldn't be a surprise for anybody.
Yeah, and it's just on this agenda, because that's just the technical procedure in form-based code. There's no action that has to be taken on other than reviewing it. And that's
And
it.
just to let you guys know that, the engineer Marathon did put new plans in their workspace, so. There's some stuff to look at.
Somebody's gonna be presenting, yeah. Or just,
And they've not asked to present. I think it's just a review and a discussion, any questions, because basically the planning board sees it, and then this is just the next check for
It's a-
us.
It's a step that we probably should take out.
Yes, I agree.
Excuse me, when we update form-based code, 'cause it's just a unnecessary step that kind of delays things a little bit.
We did identify that when we met as one that we could use to streamline it. It would save a month, and it saves a few weeks, because planning board to town board. Again, if it's something, if we didn't see these as much as we do, but any of the incentive zoning, we're in it from the beginning. And have that insight.
I think for technical purposes, it's no action needs to be taken during the meeting. That I think it would be beneficial just to at least have a motion
Motion to approve it.
to approve the review. For it to go back to the next step
Okay.
of planning
It's an
board.
approval. I think it's a motion to send it to the planning.
Yeah.
Motion to refer to the
It's-
planning board.
Yeah, so motion to send it, motion to
There's not-
approve the review,
To
to say that we reviewed it, however you want to word it.
yeah, You
It's
got that, Terry?
basically just sending
I
it.
would
Well,
rather
Natalie
do not
worded.
use the word. I think that's
Yeah.
not a good idea.
so
Well,
just a motion to acknowledge
Those are the
receipt.
technical terms
Yeah.
for motions. It has to, motions are an approval or a non-approval.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily saying you're approving this item, but you're approving that it's been reviewed and you're done with it, so, because it's on the planning board agenda for the very next day, so,
Yeah, a motion to recommend, go back to the,
yeah.
to approve the recommendation that it go back to the
Yeah.
planning board.
Senator, do you get the blueprints? Do you have a big copy of those from like Marathon? Did they give you one of those?
Not the blueprints, but we do have one, I think we have one set left back there, but those are, they already updated the plan.
But it's like the updated ones that are in this agenda.
We can request it.
I think that would be a good idea to just have it available because it's almost, I mean, it's really hard to flick around and make it bigger and try to get it. It's so much easier if that blueprint, if that's there to look at.
I can ask for. some
You
copies.
suggesting have that your,
Just borrow it, not, they don't need to make us one or anything, just so we had it before
We
the
don't
meeting.
have any, so if you want some, I have to ask.
Well, then I would ask for them, yeah.
We're gonna put something up on the screen Monday night then,
Yeah,
or
But-
that, just so that,
but it's tiny.
oh, yeah, but.
Yeah, there's an attachment on the
Yeah.
agenda, that. So if you just wanna scroll all the way down to item 41. And then click the attachment.
It's like maybe 15 pages,
so it's
maybe
the plan
20.
set, so we
More
can
than that, yeah.
open it from here.
Next one.
It's probably even worse if you print it. If you
Oh,
have
to me,
yours,
if you
if you
print-
have yours printed, you're not.
That'd be
yeah,
terrible, you won't be able to see
You're
anything.
not reading that, John.
Be like a black postage
No,
stamp.
just.
These are the ones that are
Yeah, yeah.
about this big.
It's just so
Scroll
much
through the-
easier to look at those
scroll
to
to
know
page
like,
3 at least, so
what did
they
they
can see
take
what-
out, what did they put in?
Mhm.
Yeah, so. I can read all those, can't you?
No, you can't.
You know when I make it.
Stare at it long enough, you'll start to see it.
Well, we'll let you give an overview, Jen, and then we'll just offer a motion.
Yeah, go to that land contour one, that'll give you. That's the
This,
one.
No,
it's this one that looks like this. You, I'm just kidding,
Yeah,
you
here,
can't
hold on.
see it even when you make it bigger.
Yeah, go ahead.
We had started some conversation about the fund for the Uptown bid. And there's some money in that account. And it has been sitting there for a while,
Mhm.
and we haven't continued to tax the bid.
Correct.
I know that, but we do have that money there, and I think we should make a decision what we're gonna do with it. At some point in the future.
We need to have that decision of where we are. I'm gonna go meet, I've asked to meet with Denise Chapel, just to talk to her about their bid, how their history of it, and just the functionality of it.
Yeah.
To see what direction we take with ours, because we need to make that, ultimately, we need to make that decision if we keep going, or if we decide we're just gonna absorb and eat whatever costs we might have to eat as a town, and then that would have to be refunded back. I don't know how, that's a Nadler decision, but yeah.
Cause is that, we're talking about, cause right now, isn't it set up where all the certain fees for Uptown Land are gonna go into that?
Well, no,
We're not talking
no,
those now,
the
yeah.
fees, so the fees for Uptown Landing, the dwelling fees, the unit fees, those go into the Parks Fund.
Okay, different.
What we need to do though is look back at that. Create, the Uptown. Code and see if that can, if that was limited to only Uptown. Parks development. Cause we wanna open that up for the entire town, we just don't wanna limit it to the Uptown development, cause then we're gonna have all this money and be. Looking for ways to use it and spend it in a little area where it makes little sense.
It's $150,000 or $200,000.
So we're talking about two different things.
Two different things, right? So you're talking about the Uptown bid, which we did talk about whether we were gonna resolve that or still have the Uptown bid. Or
Yeah.
whatever. The Parks and Recs fees that you were touching on, Sarah, I mentioned to Sarah, because unfortunately. It's kind of come up in random conversations during different meetings, and I don't think Sarah was here, and I feel like she is most knowledgeable about the creation of form-based code. And that separate park fund for Uptown.
Yeah, the
so
Parks
I
and Rec
was-
fee for Uptown, we haven't collected any yet because no
No,
ones have been.
no, but
we will be,
it's
that's-
separate from
Yeah.
the
So
Parks
with,
and Rec fee that we collect outside of the form-based code zoning district. So they're two
So
separate
we might
stamp
need
funds,
to-
right?
they're both in the CM fund, but for some reason they are separated. They're in the same general, they're in the same fund. We have two accounts set up. I don't know why, and I'm not sure the background of it, if they have to.
Well, we need to
continue
dig in, we need to dig in to see if when it was created, because that's where it comes back to. When it was created, it might have specifically been to fund parks in the uptown
There are
area.
restrictions on that.
It was restricted, so it's two accounts. We want to remove those restrictions. So that it can go back into just one account, have to one Parks and Rec fund throughout the entire town and not limit the spending to right there.
Correct.
So we need to know if we need to go back
Yeah.
and change the legislation that created this.
Before we
To
start.
open it up, before we
start,
collect a dollar, we need to make sure that we have that. Yeah,
Yes,
So why don't we? You're good with your finance chair now, right?
yeah.
I forget.
That's
So if we want to put it on the next finance
what I was
committee
gonna
agenda.
suggest, yeah.
and then dig into that and see, and
We'll
then,
have to take action soon.
and then propose a resolution to.
So for that meeting, who's gonna look into what are you gonna do that, Sarah?
Can you
So
research
you're looking to
that?
see what, if we need to do anything at all, but I'm sure we need to do something, because
I
that
think you
seems to
do,
me.
because I think that is the rule.
I think
it's
it is, yeah.
limited to that part of town, and so.
So we just need to
within
amend that to
first
be,
Section of the code.
So we just
Town.
need to,
change that to town in general, that's not everyone's appetite.
so that'll, yeah,
Because it was part of the form-based
Right.
code.
yeah, so
I
that
don't
would,
remember
that-
why. I do remember
Yeah.
that I think it was separate.
Mhm.
Just another tidbit of information. Not related to anything other than just interesting, I think. The city will not allow any offices on Main Street to occupy any of the vacant buildings unless it was an office already.
yeah, they don't, they want only storefronts on the first
Retail,
floor.
right.
And we've got, I don't know, 4 or 5 storefronts on Main Street that realtors can't get retail to occupy.
Yeah.
But yet there are businesses that want to occupy as office space and the city won't allow it.
Well, we can bring them up to uptown and they can have their office space down below.
Yeah, it's just, I think that's.
If we
great.
build it, they will come.
Yeah.
Terry, just to clarify, so at the meeting on Monday, what exactly would you like me to present on this? Not like
I
any
don't-
technical stuff, just to explain
Vast
why.
Gallery that we'll have here,
What's that?
the vast gallery that we'll have here. I just think if there is anybody here or in by Zoom to just have some visual for them to.
So
This is what we're talking
they would
about.
need to see it and then the explanation that this has already come before the town board. It was sent to the planning board and part of the process now. The planning board's reviewed it and the town board has to give it its final, we have to give it its final blessing
Yeah.
to go back
Yeah.
to the planning board. It's just,
Because those plans have already been through public hearing,
yes.
and
It's a
everything.
step in the
So
process.
It's a step that we're looking at removing
Oh, yeah.
that.
Yeah, point that out.
Yeah.
That is gonna be removed.
I apologize if we
All right, see you, John.
do everyone.
You're good.
See you.
See you.
We have enough votes to end the meeting, right?
Yeah, we still have enough to end.
Just barely.
Just otherwise we're here until, I gotta leave. I gotta. Wait a minute. Why aren't you in Albany? Well, I'm still in a meeting. Why? Because we can't end it. That'd be awesome. Any other questions, for this, for the agenda? So again, Terry's got the meeting. I'm not gonna be here. I don't think I will be able to zoom in because I think we're in the Capitol. I'm not sure where I am Monday night.
Yeah, we will have, in addition to Yvonne, we probably will have one other person attending the meeting. Mr. Giroux.
Oh,
Yes.
Have you heard anything from him at all?
I have not heard anything from the emails. He did go to Farmington. He did make the same comments in Farmington about the sewer. I'm at a loss because the things that we've suggested, he either doesn't know to be able to follow through with, or he says he's followed through with and he's been denied. He's been denied with that. I tell him we can't build it, we can't pay for to extend the sewer to his house, we can't pay to fix his septic. But then again, he goes back to saying, well, my neighbor got their septic, my neighbor got sewer and extended it into Farmington because they paid for it. They paid for the engineering. He just doesn't wrap his head around that. So I don't. It's hard, but it's hard to reason with him. I get it. I get his plight. I get the frustration. I get.
Is there any money available from the county for updating stuff? I know there is in the Adirondacks.
The county does, but it's only in the critical areas, like the water lake areas and things like that, the watershed, the areas.
That swampy area, is that part of this problem?
No, so the funding that the county got is through New York State, and New York
Right.
State put the limitations that it's only for within 200 feet of the Finger Lakes.
Gotcha.
It's really restricted.
Yeah.
There's really no other areas.
And that would be a perfect area to remediate that, but yeah, it's in a low lying area. He blames Stable Gate for some of the problems, which I don't know. I don't know enough back there to know if that's a legit thing, would have any impact, but he's in kind of a low area.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate situation
It is.
for him, but we can't.
Yep.
I don't wanna get any back and forth. with
No.
the guy.
So-
So probably get up and privilege of the floor.
Privilege of the floor
Just take a statement. He wants to hang around after the meeting to
to talk.
talk
That's
a little bit about it, find an offer that.
3 minutes for privilege of the floor.
Yeah,
I'll get a timer on it. I'll time him.
maybe. I mean, again, like Bishop Sheen and these other places, he says they make too much money for him. You have the trailer, you have the mobile home rehab projects, but. I think they're,
But we're all sympathetic to his plight. The fact of the matter is, there's nothing that we can do about it. There's nothing, we can't extend the sewer at taxpayers' expense, and we can't fix the septic system at taxpayers' expense. So
No.
unless something comes up, we're awful sorry, but
I know,
I was looking at an Icor with Jim last week and, I don't know if the system has been updated, but the data and plans for there's 3 leash lines. Tank that are going out toward the road. There are 3 leash lines out there, but the data on that was in the early 70s. If that system hasn't been, 50 years old, that's kind of ancient.
it sounds like he probably needs a raised bed anyway if he's in a low-lying wet area. So that's, tens of thousands more, so.
But you got, this place is in between 2 single family homes. The guy to the west he's the one that paid to bore under the road, but the guy on the other side, though, he must have a
Septic,
septic system.
Right.
And not heard a word from him, so. I mean. This guy's system is ancient, the other house is newer, both of them.
mhm.
yeah, it's just,
Not anything we can do.
no.
No, there's nothing we can do.
Tell him we're back to the same people and pitch his case and. Sorry.
So, all right, anything else to come forward?
To end on a good note, our town abstract's gonna go down by like $300 some because I found a duplicate payment. So, woo!
On this agenda?
Yes,
Okay. Let me know,
yes, I will.
because I'll change it before Monday. I'll change it today and then republish everything,
Yeah,
so.
no, I found it yesterday and I
Just
just
send-
have to rerun the report.
Send me an email with the final number, and I'll update it.
And other supervisors I talked to over the weekend were shocked that we pay almost $2 million for fire protection.
It was, I
Just-
rolled that around my
They were
brain the
shocked.
other day and I thought,
Low or high, low
They
or
think
high.
we should be paying, or that we would be paying more. Or they think that's too high.
Too high.
Too
Yeah.
high. Except if you talk to Victor,
Yeah, you listen to Randy.
Randy's paying twice as much.
Yeah.
They're shocked that they're like, we have 3 fire departments and she's like, they're all in that 750, 800, they're like, they each get about 300,000 a year.
Same kind of Geography.
Yeah, I know. Can we bring them here?
Yeah. They get unseen in 3.
No, this was, where were these guys? Oh, shoot. They took the train south, so up north, somewhere on that
No.
side of the state.
Population is a little different. when you head
Yeah,
north.
8,000 in their
Yeah.
town. About 8,000 in their town. Okay, anything else to come forward?
Just one thing, I need,
I need to stop asking that.
being an old guy, I need a paper pen, not the whole agenda, just the resolutions. You know, I don't know if it prints that. No.
So just the agenda and the resolution.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I usually.
Okay. Just not that whole package casing that, I don't, none of the attachment. Just the agenda itself with the resolution.
It's like 4 or 5 pages.
To be able to read
Yeah,
through
that-
them.
yeah.
Well, the
He's
resolution.
gonna be handling it.
Sure.
If you could do that, I appreciate it, Crystal. Thank you. I have no
I'm
more
sorry.
It's only 5
It's just an
pages.
update, just since I got you guys
Wait,
here.
anything else to come forward? Oh, Murph.
Yeah, sorry. So if you guys remember, we contracted with MRB to update our stormwater management plan. This is the first draft. Jim, myself, Sarah,
I think we have a digital version as well.
yeah, we're doing a meeting, so this should be coming to fruition within the next month. But I got some light reading to get through first.
Is that,
So,
that's the one that we got proposal on, from MRB that Jim got? That hasn't started yet, right?
No, this one started. I mean, this is the copy, draft copy.
Okay,
The other
that's
one-
a different one.
The other one is
Yeah.
is a grant that we got.
No, there's another one Jim brought forward. I said, it was too late to put it on this agenda. I said we should go through PPW and finance first anyway.
That's
'Cause
probably
It's
this
like a
one.
67, because it's over budget, it's over what was already budgeted for it.
Okay,
It's
that's different.
something, it's the water master plan, that's what it was.
Oh,
Oh.
It was budgeted for 50,000,
Oh,
No,
but-
that's not.
but the proposal was like 67.5.
master plan.
The water master
Yeah.
plan. yeah.
Mike, did you grab that from my office?
Yes.
So, so I said, let's bring it to PPW and finance, because it's way over budget, and we gotta see where that money's coming from, it's a lot of money.
well, the master plans have
Master plan.
engineering.
And then one last thing that we're gonna try to do as we go through our meeting, and I know that we've talked to most everybody about. The goal is to get as many resolutions as we can through the committees, through finance, through public works, through. Ordinance, economic development, so as they come through, they've been vetted, reviewed, talked about, discussed. Before they come to the board, they're the typical ones that'll just be put on. But to get as many of those, we're trying to line up the meeting schedules, so we have that opportunity before. So we have that discussion for anything that gets put on the agenda.
Yeah, the downside is the finance and PPW are at the end of the week on the deadline week for agenda items, so.
We changed the dates of the meeting to.
Well, it's hard because those are all the first week of every month.
Yeah,
So,
well, they don't have to be.
so I guess we can put them at the end of the month.
Could put them at the very
Last
last week of the
Week
month,
of the month, and then have some time.
like the last Friday of the month or the last.
Just change
Well-
it from the whatever, like finance is on a Thursday, just instead of the first Thursday, the last Thursday, is that what you're saying?
Well, that might mess up. Would that still work?
Well, it would have to go through the whole schedule.
And see if it would work, but that, we might be asking to move to just. Switch a couple committee times to get them to line
Yeah,
up.
and it's fine, because we would just have to, because really it would just be then coming into those committees with the completed resolutions for the most part. Because they would be due by the end of the day Friday anyway, so, I just mention it so that, because discussion will be had, but if further discussion wants to occur on it, and without recommending it for that board, then it would have to end up bouncing to the next board meeting, so.
Yeah,
So that, I think that's sometimes hard to do because you don't really know what you're gonna get in finance and what direction it's gonna head is the problem, you know?
Yeah.
Same is true with ordinance, you know? You think if things are gonna go one way, that
Yeah, so ideally, the committee should be 3 weeks there should be a 3-week separation between committee and town board meeting. We're at 2-week separation, so it would work, we bump it back, because our board meetings are the third Monday of every month. If the committees were the following
The last week, it would be
The
the
last
last week of the month.
of the month.
Essentially.
then we
Or
have
even
that,
later that same week.
yeah, then we'd have that time, but, so we could take a look and then obviously discuss.
I mean, you could do them the same week, the same
Yeah.
week as a town board meeting.
The only, I mean, your finance reports are not gonna be. Because you're not through the end of the month
Yeah,
yet,
that's true.
but I mean. Generally.
But you'd have a 30-day window to look at. You know what I mean? If
Mhm.
you just wouldn't line up with you're at 12% of the budget or whatever because you're not at
Right,
a month.
I mean, I could still provide those accurately for the board meeting. Just if we do review anything at the finance committee meeting, I could still provide the information up to date, month to date. And go from there, but.
Meeting. Monday meeting, the deadline, they have a resolution well, 10 days
10
prior to that, the Friday.
It's a Friday prior, so you have that Friday, then you have a full
Full
week
week.
before the board meeting, because once
So-
everything's in, I have to. Review everything, approve it all, change things, fix stuff, and then have the agenda published. I've been trying to have it published by Monday, by end of the day on Monday, so that then you guys have time to review it through a staff agenda review. Which I know we talked about getting away from as well, if we're gonna be putting most of these through committees anyway.
Yeah.
That's what I was just gonna ask.
If most resolutions go through committee, then we don't have to have the staff agenda meeting. Which would be one less meeting
Well-
to have.
Yeah, except the staff agenda would allow staff to make any comments.
But they could make comments at the meetings if they have a
Well, then they have
resolution.
to-
The staff should be coming into the committee meetings
So that
to
makes it more
present their.
burdensome, doesn't it?
So let's ask the staff that's here, would that be useful to just do away with this meeting and try to resolve everything at the committee meetings?
I feel like we're here to answer your questions before
Right,
the board meeting. I don't know if, like, the resolutions I prepared are the ones for the people on the planning board and the ag committee, and then the local laws. And the local laws all go through ordinance, and those other, like, appointments go through those,
Right.
the ag committee and the planning board. Those are coming right from them, so mine already all go to committees. Sometimes that might not be true, but I don't know. They all would end up at some group before they come here. But you're not all on those.
No, but
groups,
everyone
right?
seems to
We all
attend.
go.
But we all
Yeah,
go to
yeah.
them. We seem to
But
have
that's,
suddenly
that's the
decided to go to
current board, I
everything.
mean, that does, there's no, you know what I mean, I think it's a good thing, because we resolve a lot of stuff prior to the meeting, which makes the meetings go much quicker.
As for finance, I mean, I think as long as it's brought to my attention, if there is, something on a different committee's agenda that affects finance in some way, that I would just need a heads up, so.
Right.
But other than that,
Well-
no, I mean, it is really just to answer questions.
Yeah.
And I find that the purpose of the finance committee or the committee meetings also is to discuss what is going to go on the agenda, not to discuss the agenda at finance. Committee. You
Yeah,
know
so
what I'm
these,
saying?
I mean, typically these meetings end up being pretty quick. I don't know. I had to run it the last time because Jared was here and I got it done in like 20 minutes, where drawing like an hour now, but.
When Adeline was running, same thing, that's the pressure be on Terry, let's see how it goes.
But
Say,
we can-
before we leave this, talking about the town board, I still would like to talk about. The town board appointing someone as the 5th spot. I mean, we're coming up against it right now, Jared's out of town, we have 3 people, somebody gets sick, no meeting.
How is that? What is the,
It's up to the town board could
Oh.
appoint you to the town board.
no thanks, but I appreciate it.
Yeah, be right.
We would,
Oh, you'd be a resident, you're right.
we would post interview and then appoint.
But what if we did resumes and from the resumes, not interview?
You have another meeting in a little.
Yeah, we do.
We have a
Okay.
11 o'clock.
Yeah,
So, yeah, let's just, I mean, let's discuss.
I mean, we have to have John here to have that discussion, but
Yeah.
I mean, I really have stood all the whole time about, we really need 5 for the purposes of doing the people's business. I mean, we could come up 2 to 2 over and over,
Yeah,
which
well,
I don't want to see.
yeah, that's true. I mean, it could happen, but.
It hasn't yet.
No, and it's, I mean, the reason we didn't was just the logistics of it, that, you know, if you put the call out, and you give 2 or 3 weeks, send us a resume, then you have a schedule, you know, some interviews with people, you're chewing up a couple of months at least. And then the election's in November. I mean, that was the reasoning we went through.
Right, right.
Doesn't
But-
have to stay that way.
But technically, we don't have to do interviews. If we took people's resumes,
Well, I don't know. Yeah,
you know what I mean? We could decide, but
True,
here's a person.
but if, you know, just thinking, you
Right
know,
for the public. on
what's the
that one.
public gonna say about that, you know?
I don't know. I don't know. It's anyone who's interested could send in their resume. I mean, you know, just for an expeditious standpoint. To expedite the whole situation.
So this might be worth discussing Monday night. You could discuss, I mean,
Sure, when you're not gonna be here.
Well, that'll prove the case in point right there. That'll make the case for that, right?
We'll deny ability.
yeah, I'm like.
I mean, we're only one flat tire away from no meeting,
Mhm.
literally.
That happened yesterday to me.
Yeah.
It should be good now.
So you're okay now?
You have 3 others, so,
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
So let's,
Dear.
dear, right?
So where do we do that? Do we do that in the executive session? The open session?
Yeah, let's do it in executive session.
well, to discuss the employment, yeah, that could be
It
under
is, yeah.
the employment history of a particular individual and decide.
I mean, I don't want to be confined by, you know what I mean? It should be an open and frank discussion and then public.
Yeah, okay. All right. I'll see if Kathy and I can zoom in. I'll bring Kathy with me so we can yell at her about all the restrictions and the fact that we can't build houses because of overburdensome DEC regulations that take a year to review. Anyhow, motion to adjourn.
Can we just find salt?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
We need to vote, Harry, to future.
You voted. Oh, no, you didn't vote, so we couldn't.